How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
It's a very convincing sigh.
I'm good. No, it's okay. It's a Monday.
It's Monday, and
It's Monday.
that's what sighs are for.
Yep. Yeah. And I was about to say we don't usually record Monday, but we do. I think this is just an
Why do we do
especially
this to ourselves?
I don't know. This is a very Monday-ish Monday if I've ever seen one. So, yeah, but I'm good. I know we already talked about this, but what's your fare today? What are you eating and or
My
drinking?
snack, I have a Baby Bell. I guess it's mozzarella.
I think it is.
A Lindt
Or some kind
chocolate
of
because
sharp
those are,
cheese.
yeah,
Mm,
Lindt chocolate because those are my favorite food groups, cheese, chocolate.
absolutely.
And then I have some kombucha with gin in it because it's Monday.
And it's the one that you had before. What is it? Guava or something?
It's the trilogy one. So it's like
Oh, it's the trilogy this time.
raspberry,
Okay.
ginger, and lemon, I think.
Okay. I
It's good.
have some tea right here.
Lovely.
It's a ginger turmeric tea, and I don't have any snacks at the moment. Just my
Mm.
tea to
So that
start
would
this year,
qualify
but
as
that's
an
okay.
herbal tea, and you can brew it at any
It
temperature,
does, and it is boiling. So I'm
in case
not
you
gonna
missed
drink that
it.
right now. I'm gonna wait, which is fine because I go first in this podcast, so I'll drink it
Yeah.
during your segment.
What are we chatting about today?
Yeah, so I have the second part of my author series here, and we're going to be talking about Mary Shelley and her work Frankenstein.
Lovely.
Before I start, though, if you normally watch on video, you probably noticed that I have in a different spot than usual. So I'm at As We Scale recording studio. So if anybody is local to Northwest Ohio area and needs some recording space, you can check them out on social media. I'll put a link to their socials on our episode so that you can go find them if you would like to record your own podcast.
They do great work.
Yeah. But okay, so let me dive in here. So we're going to talk about Mary Shelley and her book Frankenstein, also called The Modern Prometheus. Have you ever heard it referenced as that?
That rings a bell. And I don't
Yeah.
know if I knew that it was like also known as, but I know that there are similarities or something that are supposed to be between Prometheus
Yeah.
and the
So
story.
I didn't know a lot about Prometheus. I'm not as well versed in Greek mythology as you are, so I didn't know too much about it, but I looked it up for anybody else who might not know. And Prometheus was a titan in Greek mythology who was a champion of humanity and a master craftsman who created mortals from clay. He famously defied Zeus by stealing fire from Mount Olympus and giving it to humans, enabling civilization, for which he was eternally punished by having an eagle eat his liver daily, which I had heard that part before, but I didn't know why he was being punished.
Yeah. I think the reason that I know about him in general is just because it's like kind of Aquarian themes of the humanitarian part. So
Yeah.
it's sometimes connected with the sign.
Yeah, and I guess it's Frankenstein is called the modern Prometheus because you're creating mortals, like you're creating human beings essentially. So that's why the
Okay.
two stories are related or people compare them to each other.
That makes
I don't know.
sense. I'd
Yeah.
heard the connection. I didn't understand it. So that makes a lot of sense.
Okay, good. So I told you something new. That makes me feel
Yeah.
good. Hopefully, all of our listeners learned something new today, too. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Mary Shelley, and then I'll talk about how that influenced her work, and we'll kind of do it in that same format that we did last week. Early life. Mary Shelley was born on August 30th, 1797 in London, which makes her a Virgo. And she was born as Mary Wollstonecraft Godwin. Her parents were Mary Wollstonecraft. She was a pioneering feminist, author of A Vindication of Rights of Women. And so I think it's fun and interesting that she took her mom's maiden name as, like, they gave her mom's maiden name as her middle name,
Yeah,
which
I
is
love
cool.
that.
And then her father was William Godwin. He was a political philosopher and novelist himself. So both her parents, very intellectual, both of them authors. And so Mary was raised in a really intellectually radical household. She wasn't formally educated, but she had a lot of informal education through reading, debate, and exposure to a lot of major thinkers at the time as well. So Mary's mother died just 11 days after her birth due to complications from Mary's birth. So her mother was not really around in her life a lot because she was so young when she passed away. And then her father remarried another Mary Jane Claremont, who Mary Godwin really did not get along with. She did not like her. But that marriage did give her two step siblings, Charles and Claire, that it seemed like she was relatively close to.
Interesting.
So when Mary was 11, she published her first children's tale, Mousier N'Attend or The Discoveries of John Bull in a Trip to Paris. So she published a children's book when she was just a child, which I think is
That's
adorable.
so cute.
Isn't that
It's
so
my
cute?
dream to publish a children's book.
Yeah,
Day.
I think you would be great at that. I would be excited to see what you came up with.
Right.
And then when she was still young in 1812, she was sent over to Scotland because of her disagreements with her stepmom. They didn't get along, but that time in her life was really happy, and it seemed like Mary really enjoyed being in Scotland. And when she actually met Percy Shelley, spoiler alerts, who becomes her husband. It's a little debated. We're not really sure if they met in Scotland or if they'd met later in her life, but it seems like they had met then in 1812. And a little bit about Percy Shelley. He had eloped with his first wife in 1811, just the year before he had potentially met Mary Godwin. And this was when he was 19 and she was 16. So everyone in
Hmm.
this story, I just want to preface, is very, very young.
So
Like,
young.
so young. So he
A
eloped with her in
divorcee at
18.
20.
Oh,
What?
well, not yet. No, they were not divorced.
Oh, no.
So that's the other thing about this story is it gets very, very messy.
Oh, I
So bear
love
with
it.
me. There's also a lot of Marys and like a lot of children happening in the midst of
It's
all
like
this.
Wuthering Heights all over again with all the
It's
names.
very convoluted. Yes. So bear with me. So he eloped with his first wife in 1811, and they had one child, and then they had another child on the way when he most likely reconnected with Mary in 1814. So though he was already married, Percy and Mary in July of 1814, while his other first wife was pregnant, eloped together to France.
Scandal.
And they went and eloped to France with Mary's stepsister, Claire Claremont, which is why I think that they were kind of a little bit closer because obviously they were like, we'll run away together essentially with
Yeah.
Mary's boyfriend. And so they went away to France, and then Mary really quickly becomes pregnant. But the baby Clara dies shortly after her birth in February of 1815. So, and if you do the
Okay.
math there, she was pregnant. She obviously had to have been pregnant before they left, which is probably why they eloped because Percy was probably like, oh shit, I gotta do something
So
about
did they
this.
have to go to like a new country for it to be legal, I guess?
Oh no,
Like
it was
what?
not legal. It wasn't. It wasn't. I think he was just trying to escape what is his
Yeah.
still very young
He was just
pregnant
trying to get
wife's
out of.
wrath.
My
Yeah.
gosh.
Yes. So it was a very intense relationship. It was both of them were intellectuals, both of them were authors, so they connected on a lot of levels there, but it was also somewhat volatile and maybe not the most healthy connection. Once again, we're seeing some of those toxic relationship
Yeah.
traits come up
Two
in
authors
authors.
that do not need
Yeah.
to be together.
You have to draw from your own experiences for your art. I think that's
Mhm.
why they were such great authors because they had a lot of
A
experience.
lot going on.
Yeah. And so, as you can imagine, Percy's family wasn't super thrilled that he left his wife and children in London and escaped to France with another child, essentially. So he was ostracized, and his family cut off the financial stability that they provided him because he came from a very wealthy family, and that's how he was just living off of their family money. But when he eloped, they cut him off. So not only was it a kind of emotionally volatile and toxic situation within the relationship, they also didn't have any money. So they were really destitute and in not a great situation living in France there either. Percy encouraged Mary's writing during this time, but he also overshadowed her a lot because he himself is a famous author. So we'll see later on in their life, she's oftentimes just known as Percy Shelley's wife and not an author in her own right, which she really was.
Right.
So Mary gave birth to her second child, which was a son, in January of 1816. So this is just the year after her daughter was born and had already passed. And the couple, because they were destitute and didn't have anywhere to stay, they decided to take residence in Switzerland in Lord Byron's home, which a lot of people probably would know that name. He's another very famous author. And get this, so Lord Byron was having an affair with Mary's stepsister, Claire, which is why they all went to stay at his house, because he was sleeping with her sister, who he was not married to. He's married to somebody else. So
Amazing.
the drama. I also, just to go back to her first child, I wanted to mention she named her Clara, and her stepsister's name was Claire, which I feel like was maybe also a little bit of an homage to her, which I thought
Mhm.
was cute.
I love that. It doesn't always, like,
Yeah,
work out that well, especially if you don't love the
I know.
mom, so
Right. Yeah, but it seems like they were relatively close and spent a lot of time together. So even though
you're
she didn't like her stepmom, she at least got a sister out of the situation.
yeah. Imagine, though, who she would have been if her mom did stay alive knowing who her mother was,
Yeah,
because she's already strong-headed on her own, so imagine if she had
I
had that
know.
influence too. Watch out.
Yeah, and I think even though her mom was not around, she really played a significant part in her life and just the influence that she had on the younger Mary.
Mhm.
I didn't have this in my notes, but I'll bring it up. So it's speculated or reported, however you want to say it, that she had lost her virginity on her mother's grave with Percy. So that's just
Romance.
another like very metal part of
You
her
know
story and
metal.
personality.
You gotta get mom's approval, I guess, but
And
goodness.
apparently mom approved. They got it on right than theirs. Just a way that I feel like her mom, I guess, was influential in her life. I don't know.
There you go.
So that summer after her second child, her son had been born, was called the year without a summer, the summer of 1816. Have you heard of that before?
Is that no? I mean, I'm gonna
Okay,
guess
I
and it's
hadn't
gonna be
either.
wrong, so
Okay. So it was called a year without a or the year without a summer because it had a climate anomaly in which there was literally no summer. So there was
okay.
you can look into the like details of the science behind it. I did not for this episode, but essentially there was a volcano that had erupted and the ash created this
Mhm.
climate incident where there was just frost all summer in 1816 in Europe. And there
That's
was a lot of
crazy.
starvation because crops were dying, like nobody could grow anything, and it was just cold and gloomy all summer.
I
I had
wonder which
never heard of this
volcano it
before.
was. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it
imagine
was
in
something.
Italy.
No, it wasn't even. It was farther away. It was pretty
Hmm,
remote, but something that happened changed the atmosphere and created this weird weather event.
I
Maybe
know.
I'll do an episode on it sometime.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was really cold that summer. They're in Switzerland and near Lake Geneva, and they're staying. It's Percy Shelley, Mary's there, Claire is there, Lord Byron, and then there's this other guy called John Polidori, who I'd never heard of. He's an English writer credited with creating the vampire genre.
Mhm.
He was the one who kind of first started that. I think there was some other people, but he's sometimes credited as
Did he do
starting the
Nosferatu?
genre. No, he did The Vampire,
Okay.
and vampire spelled like Pyre,
Uh,
which I had heard of before, but I did not know anything really about him as an author. So they're all staying together. They have to be inside pretty much all the time because it's cold. It's not a nice summer. So Lord Byron proposes I don't know why I said it like that, a ghost story writing challenge for all of them to write a ghost story and see whose is the best.
So this I have heard, like, this part.
Okay, as to like
It's the
how it
only thing
came
I've
to
known so
be.
far. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So currently, let me just set the stage for what was happening at this point that kind of inspired Mary. So the scientific community was debating galvanism and reanimation at this time. Were two physicians at the Royal College of Surgeons, William Abernathy and William Lawrence. And Abernathy was arguing that life requires a spark, something to ignite otherwise inert body. So he's saying life is almost separate from the body. You have this body, which is just flesh, and then you need something to like reanimate it. And on the other side, William Lawrence was arguing that life is not an external ingredient to the body, but it arises naturally from the body's structures and processes. And it's impossible to separate life from the actual like organism of a body itself,
Ooh, how
which now we know which is
philosophical.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at that time, they didn't know which was true. So there was a lot of debate, and I'm sure people have heard of like the frog experiment where a guy had accidentally touched electricity to a frog that he was dissecting and it moved its muscles. And so he was like, oh, you can make something re-alive again with electricity. And so that's what the galvanism and reanimation argument was all about at the time, was like, can we make something come back to life with electricity? Like, is this what life is just like an electrical impulse?
Mhm.
And so there was a lot of discussion and debate and science going on behind that. And so Shelley, Mary Shelley, who grew up in a scientific household and was exposed to a lot of this education, she would have kept herself abridged on the topic and been aware of these philosophical questions that were coming up surrounding that, such as creation and like responsibility that people have to creating life. Also, the fact that her daughter had passed just the year before really impacted her as well, and she reported a lot of nightmares or dreams of being able to reanimate that baby that she had lost. So that night after the topic had been proposed of this ghost story challenge, Mary Shelley had a dream of a medical student piecing together and reanimating a body. And that combined with her former dreams of bringing her daughter back to life created an environment where Frankenstein could be born. And Mary was just 18 years old at this time.
That's crazy.
So just let that sink in for a second there.
Again, I go back to, like, the imaginations of writers is insane.
Yeah, crazy. And she'd already had 2 kids and had eloped, and it's just
Yeah.
the stuff that had happened in her life already is
And
insane.
my dreams are so normal, like, I could never pull from them like
Yeah,
that either, you know? Like, I'm not dreaming about people putting bodies together, no.
right. No, I'm dreaming about, I don't know, swimming in a race that
Showing
I
up
didn't sign
naked
up
at
for,
school
and
or
then all of a
something,
sudden my
yeah.
dad's there or something,
My
and you're
teeth are
like
falling out, like, it's not good.
Yeah, well, maybe you just gotta dig a little deeper and get some inspiration from that.
Yeah.
Maybe if you just, let go.
Let
Let this
that be the guide for my, children's
Yeah,
book, is my teeth falling out.
there you go. This was in, like we said, 1816 that she came up with Frankenstein, but it was just in the works at that time that she was writing it. It wasn't something that was ready for publishing or that she published yet. So in between then, on December 30th in 1816, her and Percy were married. And they were married because this was just 2 weeks after his first wife committed suicide, so that they
I
could
wonder
finally get
why.
married because he was still married to the other woman that's in
Yeah.
England.
No wonder why she committed suicide. She
Yeah.
was abandoned pregnant.
I know. So her and Percy got married, and then in 1817, she gave birth to her second daughter, who also died shortly after her birth from, I think, typhus or typhoid, one of the fevers that was like at the time her daughter had died, her second daughter died from. And so then the next year in 1818 is finally when Mary went ahead and published her Frankenstein work. She did publish it anonymously because, like we talked about with Emily Bronte, these were not things that women were supposed to talk about, and women were not really authors all that often either. So it would have been very controversial for her to have published this and put her name on it. So it was published anonymously in order to keep her from that criticism. So let's talk about the book and the movie versus the book, because this is what kind of got me started on it, was the
Mhm.
2025 Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein that was released, and you can watch on Netflix if you would like to. Have you seen it?
I have. I really liked it.
I loved it. It was so good.
It's really well done.
Have you read the book?
Honestly, can't remember. If I
Okay.
have, it was, like, when I was a teenager. I wanna
Yeah.
say that I have. I feel like I have.
Mhm.
But, yeah, I couldn't remember it well enough to compare it to the movie, at least.
I feel like maybe I read a small excerpt in high
At
school,
least, yeah.
but I don't think I've ever read the book, so it's definitely on my list to get through at some
Mhm.
point. So Since I haven't read the book and I've only seen the movie, I'm taking this you can look at my source for this information, but I'm taking this from another website that was comparing and contrasting the differences between the 2. Just a disclaimer. So, the first thing that kinda differs is Elizabeth's role. So, Elizabeth, who's played by Mia Goth in the movie. In the book, Elizabeth is Victor's cousin and his future wife, who's a supportive figure who the creature eventually murders. That's in the book. But then in the film, Elizabeth is not his cousin, and she's engaged to his brother, William, rather than him. And she has a really different dynamic with both Victor and the creature in the movie
Mhm.
than in the book. And her involvement with the creature influences the plot's emotional stakes a lot more than it does in the book. The bride or companion subplot. So in the novel, the creature demands a female companion, and Victor initially agrees, and then destroys the companion's unfinished body, which escalates the creature's vengeance, which I never knew that was a part of the book,
Me
that he was
either.
supposed to have a
Isn't
companion.
isn't there a movie called The Bride that's supposed to be it's Jessie Buckley, and I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be about the bride, but it's not
Oh,
connected.
like the bride of
The
Frankenstein or
Frankenstein. I'm
Frankenstein's
pretty
monster, I
sure.
guess I should say. Okay.
Yeah,
I don't know, I've
I
never heard of
think.
that, but it very well could be. Yeah.
It
And
seems
then in
that
the
way
tr
just based on the, like, previews I've seen. That's all I know.
Yeah, it probably is. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's come out that I feel like is related to Frankenstein, so it
Mhm.
probably is. In the film, Victor never starts to create a female companion, and if anything, Elizabeth is the kind of the companion for the beast, and they have their own almost romance that goes on, in the movie as
Yeah, they do
well.
kinda merge those roles almost, don't they?
Yeah. Yep, definitely something along those lines, which I feel like I like more. I think it was more probably simplified it a little bit to not have as many characters, but also
Yeah.
did definitely make it more emotional.
But why does the girl get the sacrifice, you know?
Always, always the sacrifice. Morality and the creature's behavior are different in the book and the movie. So, in Mary Shelley's version, the creature becomes vengeful after rejection and murders several people intentionally as retaliation. Whereas in the movie, he's seen as a much more sensitive and like empathetic creature. He kills mainly in self defense if he has to. There's no like revenge killing spree. He makes friends with that elderly man in the cottage and, like, protects him as much as
I love
possible.
that scene.
Yeah. And so he's much more sympathetic and thoughtful, even teaching and learning from Victor and others as well. So which I think is a great reimagining of it. I'm all for that.
Mhm.
I think it made it much more meaningful. Victor's story is also a little bit different. So in the book, his descent happens through guilt and isolation and avoidance of the responsibility he should have had for creating this creature. Whereas in the film, he's portrayed more, at least initially, more arrogant and hostile and unsympathetic to the creature than he was in the book. And his father figure and backstory are also a little bit reshaped or like exaggerated for the cinematic aspect of it. That's not really. And then the ending and the resolution to the novel as well. So in the book, Victor dies in on Walton's they renamed the captain to Anderson in the movie, so if you hear it different ways, that's why. So Walton's ship still consumed by hatred, and the creature laments his creator's death and indicates that suicide will follow it. And then in the film, Victor and the creature reconcile and there's forgiveness there. And then Victor calls the creature his son before he dies, and the creature helps free the ship and walks into the sunset, which is a little bit more hopeful and less like full of despair like the novel
I
was of
know.
there being an end to everything.
Yeah.
So, kind of different, a little bit more hopeful, but it makes a lot of sense that those elements and themes of like the destruction and the despair and the guilt and all of that tragedy that Mary experienced early in her life shows up, I feel like. And not even necessarily early, just like even recently in her life with the death of her daughter. But then also,
Mhm.
it was very relevant to the moral and responsibility arguments that people were having at that time in science. So you see a lot of those themes. So after the publication of Frankenstein, unfortunately, it does not get any better for Mary. 19, which was just the year after her publication, her first son dies, and she has her fourth child at the same year. Percy, he's not actually a junior, but he's named after Percy Shelley. His first name's Percy, his last name's Shelley. I think their middle names are just different. So I'm just going to call him
Every time
Percy
you
Junior.
say Percy, all I can think of is Percy Jackson, like the
I
books.
knew you were going to say that.
Or
Yes,
isn't there
not
like a
that Percy.
Percy the Pig? Isn't that like a Looney Tunes or something?
Oh,
But
not that
mostly
I know
Percy
of.
Jackson. Maybe I'm
Yeah, I
making that
can't think
up.
of any other Percys, any other famous Percys
Uh,
besides Percy
Percy
Jackson.
is also the name of the dog on Pocahontas.
What? It is?
I think.
I don't remember that.
I'm just like making stuff up. Dog on
I don't even
Pocahontas.
remember there being a
That's
dog though, so
yeah, he's like a little bulldog. Okay, yes, I was correct
Uh,
about that.
okay. Cute.
And Percy the pig, is a line of pig-shaped gummy candies. That's not what I was thinking of, so ignore that
Hmm.
one.
Okay.
Ew,
I've
these are
never heard of
weird
that one.
looking. Guys, go look up Percy Pig gummy candies, please.
See if you
Um,
can you show me on the screen?
yeah, hold on, let me pull up a better image. It's just like they're like pink gummies, and that really grosses me out. They look like
I mean, it kind of
pigs.
sounds delicious. Oh my God, they're so cute. That
I wonder
grosses you
what
out?
flavor. Well, that
They
one
gotta be
wasn't
like
as gross as the
strawberry or
other
bubble gum or
picture.
something.
Look at that one that's like not as like well mocked up. It looks
Oh,
cute on
well,
the screen. Okay.
the little pig thing next to it is is interesting.
Raspberry, strawberry, cherry, and grape flavored. They're available at Target.
Grape is kind of a wild card, I'm gonna be honest, but the other ones
I've
sound
never tasted
red.
something that's good grape flavored.
No, yeah, grape. I actually don't really like cherry all that much either, usually, because
Yeah.
it does taste kind of
They're kind of
medicine-y.
like the Starburst Reds colors
Yeah, now I really kind of want to try them. That sounds good. I'm gonna have to go get
at
them at
Target.
Target.
This is not
All
a
right,
paid
you've
ad.
convinced me. I'll go to Target.
Gosh.
So that was in 19, and then in July of 1822, Percy and a friend, Ned Williams, went out sailing when the weather turned and they were caught in a storm. The men didn't return, and then shortly after, both of their bodies washed ashore, making Mary and her friend Jane both widows. Very young.
Oh no.
Yeah. So she returned to England after Percy's death, and she went to Percy's relatives because remember, at this point, they're still pissed at
They're
him
mad.
and they're
Yeah.
cut off from any inheritance. So she went to his relatives at that point and begged them for mercy, essentially, because of her son that was still alive, her fourth child, also named Percy. And they did help support her then at that point. And then she also supported herself through her writing and took up editing as well to help keep her family afloat. And she gradually gained recognition for her work. But like I said, she also was often just framed as Percy Shelley's widow and not as much of a writer in her own vein of work. So some of her other not or some of her other works are Valperga, which is a historical novel, The Last Man, which was an early post-apocalyptic novel about plague and isolation, which sounds really good. I kind of actually think I might read that
Yeah, it
one.
does.
Lodore, Faulkner. She wrote numerous short stories, essays, and travel writings. And then she later edited and preserved some of Percy Shelley's poetry, which helped continue to shape his legacy after he was gone as well.
That's so sweet.
I know. So in February of 1851, at 53, she passed away. So she was still very young. What we think was likely a brain tumor was the reason that she died so young in her life. We don't know for sure, but based on her symptoms, that's what it's thought to be. She was buried in Bournemouth, England, and her son preserved her papers, including fragments of Percy Shelley's heart, which she kept wrapped in his poetry in her desk drawer for her entire life.
I did hear about that. That was gross.
Also very metal.
How did she get it?
It's when his body washed up on shore. I
Okay.
assume during like the autopsy or whatever it is, she got her
Yeah,
hands on it and then
that's
she
fair.
just kept it. I don't really know how it would have like preserved itself.
It has to have like
Maybe
dried or something.
I was gonna say this is kind of morbid, but maybe the salt water like
Oh, true,
solidified
yeah.
it or
That
kind of
and
like
then like
preserved it. You know what I mean?
put it in the oven on low. Just dry it.
Just freeze dry that bitch. Maybe, I don't know how she
Did
did it,
ovens
but she
exist then?
managed.
No.
I don't they had something, like
Yeah, they
stove
had, like,
or
stoves,
something,
yeah,
right?
like a
Yeah.
wood stove, yeah.
Yeah, so they had she could have maybe done it in there. I don't know. I'm not really sure how she did it, but she kept it all those
That's all
years.
that matters is that she has it.
And that was like 30 years that she kept that. You'd have thought that that would kind of just disintegrate at some point.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I guess it was in, like, a nice box or something to keep it
It was wrapped in his poetry, it was
together.
wrapped in paper.
Ugh, that's so lovely.
I'm telling you, she's metal.
I
She's
wanna go
metal as
read his
fuck.
poetry now.
Yeah, or hers, or works at least. So, her legacy. Frankenstein is considered to be one of the first science fiction novels, and she's often known as the mother of science fiction. It's a foundational text for a lot of studies on Gothic literature, so she's kind of foundational in the development of that genre. She's now recognized as a visionary thinker, a woman who was writing about science, power, and ethics before women were even welcomed into those conversations. So she was really foundational. And her work continues to influence discussions on bioethics, creation, and responsibility.
Love it.
And that's all that I have for us. That is Mary Wollstonecraft, formerly Godwin Shelley, the mother of science fiction.
I love it. I wanna go read some of her other works
Yeah,
now.
she was really metal. I like her. I know that, like, a little controversial. She had her moments in life, but she was also a freaking child. So I
Yeah, we all
blame
make
Percy for that.
mistakes. Like, I would do
I
that too
blame
when I
him.
was 16, to be fair,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. Mhm.
And I also think, like, at that age, at that time, that was the only answer would be to run away and do that because it's like you can't even
Yeah,
speak to men without being in trouble, so it's just kinda
right.
setting people up to act crazy.
And she was so young, she didn't have her mom, she didn't get along with her stepmom, like, she'd already
Yeah,
gone and, like, had to live somewhere
just trying
else
to get
because
out
they
of
didn't get
there.
along. So she just kind of, I feel like, didn't have a good clear path in life. So,
There you go.
you know?
So both of them lost their moms, both Emily and
Yeah, yeah. Or, Mary obviously much younger, like, right after she was born, essentially, but,
Mhm.
Emily, yeah, also lost her mom very young. I think she was only 3 when she
Yeah,
lost her mom. So, it's kinda like
interesting.
Disney princesses, how they have to have a dead mom in
God.
order to,
You
like
can't be a good author unless your mom's
Yeah,
dead.
I mean, it does
Well,
seem like there's a pattern, but
there goes
next
my
week, we're gonna
dreams.
talk about Louisa May Alcott. Like, yeah, thanks, mom. Thanks for not making me a famous author dying
How
tragically when
dare
I
you
was
not
young.
give me any pain as a child.
I haven't had
Well,
any heartache to make myself successful. So, but next week we're going to talk about Louisa May Alcott. So we'll see if her mom also died young. Then I'm going to say that's officially a pattern, and
yeah.
we can
Yeah.
claim it. So
3 or more. Hey, I
yeah,
love Little Women.
yes, I'm excited to talk about that because I really don't know. I loved Little Women, but I don't know hardly anything about Louisa May Alcott. So I'm very excited to
Me
learn more
either.
about her
Yeah. That'll be good.
and talk to you guys about it. So I'm gonna put this
Mhm.
away so I can
Love it.
prepare for your story
Well, speaking of theories
and get my tea.
about multiple women having to lose their moms to be writers, that could be a conspiracy theory. And that's what
Ooh,
I'm talking about
shocking.
today.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel like everybody really enjoyed the episode on the psychology behind why we love reality TV. So this is the
Yes.
psychology behind why we love/hate conspiracy theories.
Great. I'm excited.
What's like a conspiracy theory that you kind of shamefully admit to maybe believing a little bit?
One that I believe. I don't know if this is really like a conspiracy theory, but I know there's a lot of conspiracy theories around it, so I'm gonna say that I can claim this. Is like I don't think that we can definitively say that aliens don't exist.
Oh,
I
yeah.
just don't think
No,
I think it's
the
arrogant for
government said
us
that
to
they
say that they
do.
don't. So,
The
like,
government
I know
finally
that's not,
said that
like,
they
really
do.
a conspiracy theory, but
Yeah.
that's mine. So I'm
No,
picking.
that's the big that's I feel like that's the biggest, like, tinfoil hat kind of
Right,
theory or
yeah,
whatever.
and I
And
am
I also believe aliens could
yeah,
exist, to be fair.
I am logical, extremely logical, probably to the point of being annoying on a lot of things, but that's the one thing that I'm like,
Mhm. Yeah.
I could see it."
What about okay, so moon landing, I've
Okay.
decided my official position on this.
Okay.
I'm fine with the idea of them having landed on the moon at that time when that
Mhm.
happened. I'm not fine with having technology that can transmit from the moon to the United States live with audio and visual.
Okay.
So, is it possible that they landed on the moon and then recorded the moon landing in a studio to, make everybody feel good about the space race?
I mean, I'm sure it's possible. Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's one that I could maybe dabble in a little bit.
Okay. Yeah.
There's plenty I can dabble in, but we don't have time for that because we're talking about the psychology and not the actual theories.
Okay, okay, I see. Gotcha. I thought we were gonna go, like, in a deep rabbit hole
No, no, no.
today, so
Imagine. No, no. We're going to keep it high level and just talk about
okay.
how they kind of catch on and why maybe Americans seem a little bit more disposed than others. So
Interesting, okay.
73% of the population thinks that conspiracy theories are out of control. I think I can agree with that.
I would also agree with
Um,
that.
55% believe that belief is higher than it was 25 years ago in conspiracy theories, and
Okay.
77% blame social media and the internet for that happening.
Do you think that it is that? Like, what's your opinion?
I think that social media and internet definitely exposes you to more variety of social media of conspiracy theories that you maybe wouldn't have heard of before.
Okay.
And can help nurture the rabbit hole that people can get down.
Mm.
I catch myself in them all the time, and I'm like, "Back up, let's, interact with something else because
Put her in reverse, Terry.
because they're starting to talk sense, and I gotta get out of here." We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about why we're continuing to generate them and whether or not they actually are increasing or why we feel that way, because there have been plenty of
Okay,
studies around them.
let's
So
get into it.
many people, it's actually a conspiracy theory that people think that the term conspiracy theory was created by the CIA after JFK to keep people from believing in certain theories. But that's not true.
Okay.
So we're debunking our first conspiracy theory that the CIA created it. Its earliest known use was in the 60s when it was published in the New York Times when a writer was describing claims that the British aristocrats were weakening the US during the Civil War for their own financial interest. And so, in that context, it wasn't necessarily used as a negative connotation that we have today. It was just, this is a conspiracy theory. They have a theory about the
Right.
conspiracy of the British government, kind of thing.
That's really
Um,
early. I'm surprised that that showed up so early in history.
Exactly, and then it kind of resurfaced in, the 1900s. It wasn't, popularly used, and then it started to kind of pick back up in maybe, the 20s or so. So, today, a conspiracy theory is defined as a belief that some influential or controlling organization or group is secretly responsible for a notable event or keeping something from the public. We see them often used to explain harmful or tragic events, such as 9/11 or the COVID pandemic, as the result of actions by a small, powerful group. So, some people believe 9/11 was an inside job, or that things about the pandemic were from China or an internal job. And so, it's just a way to reject whatever accepted narrative is coming out to the public. And kind of sometimes people who get into these conspiracy theories even use some of those narratives that they push out to the public as proof that they're hiding something. They're putting up this story instead as a distraction of some
Right.
sort.
Yeah. It's like when we talked about in our fallacies episode. It's like, well, you can't prove
Mhm.
that it's not true. And you're like,
Yeah.
okay, that doesn't prove that it is true though, but that's the
Yeah.
sort of
And
fallacy that people
circular
get stuck in.
thinking, yeah, is one of the reasons that we buy into it for sure, is because it's such a nice, thought defeating exercise. So there are 5 different types of kind of concepts of conspiracies, based on, where the group sits against the victim. So we have the enemy outside. So there's some sort of external group plotting against the community. So if we think about the war on terrorism and Islamic hate, even Saddam Hussein, who did not have anything to do with 9/11, they used the conspiracy of the idea of the Islamic fate wanting to attack America as a way to launch the war, right? Then there's the enemy within. Conspirators are hidden inside a nation. And so we saw this during the Cold War with McCarthyism and suspected communism within the country, as well as we see today the way that they're weaponizing the concept of US immigration and ICE. Of there are these enemies inside our nation that are here to get us and make our lives terrible. So it's not just something that individuals can kind of use and leverage and talk about. Like we see the government sometimes wielding them as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
There's also the enemy from above. So this is talking about powerful elites and manipulating events. So this is where like the Illuminati or the Rothschilds families come into play of these super elite rich billionaires that get together once a year and decide what's going to happen in the world.
Yeah, the lizard people who are running the world
Oh, the
and
reptilians, yeah.
eating children for to stay young.
Which, you know, there's certain things with children that are coming out that are happening to be true. So, like, you
Mhm.
know, what levels of that? Enemy below is lower class attempting to overturn order. So, this kind of gets into the witch hunts. It also is a way of framing up people who are dependent on welfare, that the lower class is trying to take advantage of the upper class by accepting welfare resources. And then benevolent conspiracies of there's these hidden forces potentially helping humanity. And some believe that aliens are helping humanity and are sometimes interfering with certain things. Also, like the idea of like Atlantis or some ancient race that created the pyramids, things like that, of these hidden entities that are kind of helping out people along
Almost
the
like a
way.
more powerful but good source of
Exactly.
these. I feel like you don't hear about those quite as often.
Exactly. That's true. And sadly, those are probably the least likely and the least, talked about. So, talking about the psychological factors, we know that bias is a big thing that happens in our thought processes, and there's all kinds of biases that come with believing in conspiracy theories. So, beliefs kind of fulfill the need for understanding and control or a group identity during any kind of crisis. They latch onto these theories to avoid the fear that they're feeling or feeling like they lack control and kind of letting go of any kind of ability to take it back.
Yeah, I feel like even having been really into true crime, that happens a lot in unsolved cases where
Mhm.
some really crazy speculations get out just because I mean, part of it, people just want to know, but then also it's really scary if you don't know what happened, right? Because then it
Yeah,
could happen to you because you don't know how to like protect yourself from something when you don't know what the risk is. So creating a theory that, aliens came and took somebody is more comfortable to believe sometimes than just that there's bad people in the world, you know?
right. Yeah. And it's like there becomes this in group and this out group of people who have found the solution to this phenomenon and people who haven't. And so, you find in everyday conversation, even amongst me and my friends, we don't believe in conspiracy theories, but we're like, oh my God, have you heard? Like, have you heard this theory on this? And it's kind of like the smaller the group, the more like strength that it has because it's like an appealing in group, out group thing.
Yeah.
So that's one part of it. Then there's the idea of what's called the proportionality bias. So big events must have big causes. They can't just be random. And then kind of building on that, there's the fundamental attribution error of overestimating people's motives and underestimating that ability for something to be random. Then there's confirmation bias, so seeking evidence supporting prior beliefs to avoid any kind of cognitive dissonance. So we also see a lot of conspiracy theories trying to like map and connect to each other, of like the elites plus the cabal plus, all kinds of different things. They kind of build upon each other to like reconfirm what you believe. And then illusory pattern perception. So seeing patterns where ones simply do not exist. And I see this a lot as a Taylor Swift fan. So she kind of created this world of Easter eggs, right? Of these little clues and hints.
Okay.
And so it is the most reality altering thing to hear like a Taylor Swift person and be like, well, this means that and this means that, and it's all connected. And there's just like these random patterns, and you're just like, Well, what if she just liked the color purple that day? You know, like, it's
Okay,
completely
so
possible that this has all happened at random, and it happens to create this pattern that you've created that the
yeah.
person didn't.
So I feel like I do see that a lot where people are, and I'm not particularly a Taylor Swift fan, so I don't know all of the little things, but people I've seen are like, I don't understand, but they're like, "Oh, this is like connected to this and this means that." So is any of that real? Like, has she confirmed any of that, or is it all just people stuff?
So there's some things that are confirmed as far as Easter eggs that she's put in, but they're far and few
Okay.
between compared to what other people are coming up with. I mean, I think the major one is that Taylor Swift is gay. They think that she and Carly Kloss were in a relationship and, and like all of that. They really go deep. They say like they'll pick apart every lyric and be like, well, this is an emblem for like the lesbian community. So she's definitely a lesbian and like all, and it's just everyday things that lesbians happen to adopt. You know what I mean? It's not.
That's so funny.
And like if she is, that's amazing. And we
Yeah.
love a bisexual queen. Um but that, like they're even like saying that
But
like
she hasn't
they're
come out and,
beards
like,
for each other.
confirmed, yeah,
No,
her
no.
own.
They're like,
So
no,
it's like,
she's
don't
swinging it.
label
They
don't
think
label
she's
somebody
swinging it.
something that they have not labeled
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah. So, at the end of the day, they've done all kinds of studies on this. And like some people would say you maybe have a tendency for narcissism or paranoia as part of like the dark triad of your personality. But ultimately, conspiracy thinking is usually non-pathological. It appears across history and cultures, and it often stems from people gossiping or religion or just groupthink. It's not usually
Yeah.
actually any kind of like psychosis until you go too
Right,
far.
right. Yeah, I feel like religion is a huge fuel for a lot of these.
Yeah. There's also sociological factors that kind of bring you into it or make you more prone to believing them. So, Richard Hofstadter, 1965, wrote a book called The Paranoid Style in American Politics, and just really focusing on democracy itself and how it can maybe sometimes bring in conspiracy theories naturally. So, democracy obviously functions on more of a consensus view. So, competing groups that have different interests, they're going to have different beliefs and shape different narratives. And we see that very much in today's political climate of all kinds of conspiracies on both sides of, people blamed Democrats for Pizzagate or whatever of this, child sex trafficking ring and also for like the COVID masking and that's being bad for you. And then we see on the other side like all the QAnoners and all of that kind of stuff. And, they begin to like prophesize themselves getting further and further away from each other. So at this point, individuals feel kind of like unable to channel their interests into any other system of one or the other. And then you start to kind of believe whatever that in group is believing.
Yeah, because if you don't, then you're going against, like, your
Right.
people and the people, like, you're aligning yourself with.
Yeah, and the alienation of the other side obviously builds suspicion, and then it just makes you, susceptible to those kinds of things. It makes you vulnerable to charismatic leaders and can ultimately destabilize democracy and provide vulnerability to totalitarianism. As we see
Yeah.
today, Donald Trump's entire presidency has been built on conspiracy theories that the Democrats stole the election, that COVID-19 wasn't real, that I can keep going all day, but I won't.
Mhm. Yeah. I think we
And
all know.
then yeah, we know where this is going. So this historian, Catherine Olmsted, identified 3 reasons why Americans in particular are prone to him. And one, there's been genuine government secrecy and cover-ups that have come to light, like Watergate, the Tuskegee syphilis experiment, and MK Ultra, things like that were kind of projects by the United States to conceal certain things. There's also government sanctioned propaganda conspiracies. So, there was the fear of German infiltration during World War One that was circulated. Obviously, the Red Scare with the Cold War and McCarthyism. And then even the fact that Saddam Hussein was linked to 9/11, we now know he was not.
Yeah, and the fear, it reminds me too, I would say this falls into conspiracy theory, but, like, the fear of Japanese people or
Yeah.
Asian people in general during World
Yeah.
War
It's
II when
awful.
we literally had people in concentration camps because of the
Mhm.
fear-mongering that was going on.
Exactly. Um, and then there's also kind of government repression of dissent in these situations. So the Sedition Act, again, the Red Scare, all of that kind of stuff. So it's really easy living in America and living in a modern world where we're getting hit with all of these theories, these in groups and out groups and algorithms that we would kind of get caught up in it for sure. Again, we're not the only ones that have suffered from conspiracy theories. They're ancient. They've been around forever. One ancient one happened in 64 AD in Rome. There was what was called the Great Fire of Rome that lasted a week. It was under the reign of Emperor Nero, who came into power in questionable ways already, as we
Yes, we talked about it in
know
our
with
briefing.
Agrippina. What is it? Agrippina?
Agrippina?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So he was already questionable. And so he happened to be out of town at the time of the fire. He returned and was like, yeah, let's reorganize relief and rebuild Rome. And everybody was like, well, this is really convenient that you weren't here during this time. And now you just want to rebuild Rome in your image. So that's like one of the first conspiracy theories that had kind of existed. In medieval Europe was kind of the start of anti Semitism, actually was not starting in Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
They used to believe that Jewish communities poisoned the wells, that they
Mhm.
were the cause of the Plague, and that they were wanting global domination. And I think beyond just like Nazi culture, we see it today with the issues in Israel of being torn about not feeling anti Semitic, but maybe believing that Israel wants world domination. And it's kind of this really dangerous line to walk in conversation and has been for what the past 2 years of who's right and who's wrong in that
Mhm. Yeah.
situation. So, yeah, I mean, there is definitely strong general worldwide anti Semitism. But when it comes to conspiracies, we're kind of in the middle of one and deciding, what side to be on.
Yeah, they're my one of my favorite podcasts that I've mentioned before, Ologies. They did an episode on marginalia, like the little drawings
Mhm.
in the sides of books and things. And there's a lot of snails that you'll see, and that was actually thought to have been a slur against an anti-Semitic way of
Interesting.
referring to people who are Jewish. I'll link the episode if anybody wants to listen to it, but it was really interesting, yeah, because yeah, I mean, if you think about it, people were anti-Semitic back in Rome.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the other major ones I would say in our history is obviously like the JFK assassination. And they did a study on the patterns of people believing whether it was a CIA job or how it happened. So immediately after the assassination, just over 50% believed it was a conspiracy theory. In 1975, 81% believed it was a conspiracy.
Wow, that really jumped.
Yeah.
That's
In the
crazy.
early 2000s, it peaked again at 81%. And like right now, it's been, generally floating above 70%. And there's books about it, there's movies about it, there's documentaries about it. I've watched plenty. I don't know if you've ever seen the show with James Franco, and
Yes,
it's
11/22,
so
63.
good.
I
It's so
just watched it. It's so good. Definitely recommend.
yeah,
Yeah, it was a great show.
yeah.
And then I just also finished a book called The Gossip Columnist's Daughter,
Mhm.
which is kind of tied to it as well, where it's based on a true crime, I guess, a death that happened of this young girl, young woman, and how they think it was like linked to JFK's assassination because it happened on the same night. It's a very good book. I'll
Interesting.
also
I
link that
love
one.
that. Yeah.
It's one of my top books now.
Okay. Yeah, definitely link it. I wanna read it. And now there's, like, the JFK Jr.'s love story coming out and all that, which is, like, not
Yes, on
necessarily related.
FX with
Yeah,
Carolyn
we
Bessette
started it.
Kennedy.
Mhm.
Is it good?
It's really good, yeah. And I remember it clearly. Forrest didn't remember it, which was interesting to me.
I don't remember it either, yeah.
I just remember, like, when they died and, like, the news media coverage. I feel like it had to have been very close to Princess Diana too.
What year was that?
I have
That
no
that ha
idea.
was it 90?
It's in the 90s. That's all I got.
Yeah.
I think
I
that
think I
sounds
was just
right.
too I think I was too I would have only been 3, so I don't
Yeah.
it was too long. I was too
Yeah.
young to remember it.
Which is another conspiracy theory of Princess Diana,
Oh, absolutely.
all kinds
So
of
many
deaths.
conspiracy theories.
MLK is one. Even Jeffrey Epstein, like, his life and death are
Yeah.
conspiracy theory
Yeah.
central. Paul McCartney is dead is another one that's kind of funny. I don't
I
know if
haven't
you've
heard
ever
that
heard
one.
that one. So they said
No.
on the White Album, if you play it backwards, there's all kinds of messages on it. And one of them is like,
Okay.
Paul is dead, Paul is dead. And so they think that he died in a car accident and they just found somebody who looked like him to replace him, which is
I've
weird because
also
he's like
heard
the one still standing. I mean, Ringo's still around, but like,
I've also heard that exact same theory for Christina Aguilera too.
really?
Or no, Avril Lavigne.
Avril
I'm
Lavigne.
sorry, Avril
Yeah.
Lavigne. I mix them. Yeah, we're like because she does look different, but it's because she's not a child anymore,
Yeah,
and she does her makeup different. Like it's not she's not a
exactly.
different person.
Or
But I
like
have also heard that.
Elvis. Elvis is alive, Michael
Yeah,
Jackson's
Tupac's
alive,
alive.
Tupac's alive,
Yeah.
yeah. And then there's like the scientific ones of like the earth is flat,
Yes.
that
Yes,
the
yes.
chemtrails are controlling the weather, which I saw a lot of pop up when we had this big snowstorm in the South. They were like, I saw all those planes with those lines in the sky yesterday, like pretty
That
suspicious.
gets me.
It
That
gets me too.
one I just
I
like,
love to
yeah,
pretend I believe
that one gets
them.
me.
They're so fun. So yeah, those are some fun ones. But overall, there have been a lot of studies about like, has there really been an increase, all of that. And there's been multiple. They did one in the United States, they did one in Europe. And it showed that like some will increase a little bit and then some will decrease, but most of them kind of have stayed steady. That mostly there's
That AirPod.
fluctuations. Did it not? Did it
No, no,
not come
I was
back?
just like, that AirPod did not
I know,
wanna
she hates
stay
it.
in.
She hates being in there.
Every episode, she likes to make a
I
dramatic
know, it's
appearance.
always that one. I bet this ear is smaller than the other one.
Maybe.
My face is very much not
Neither's mine,
symmetrical.
like, it makes me
It's
depressed
so
every time I
awful when I
look
look
at
at it. When
those
I look at it
things
in the
when they
mirror
near.
view. Yeah.
Like,
That's a conspiracy. But so the studies, multiple studies have happened, and it's mostly that they spike and fluctuate over time. So we may be in the midst of a spike with COVID-19 and Donald Trump, all that, but that there's not like a steady increase of beliefs. So we're probably just in a little bit of a spike right now. And
lucky us.
please, let's hope it goes back down. Conspiracy theories are bad for the world for a lot of reasons. They're not always bad. Some of them are harmless, but there's a couple of them that have done a lot of damage. And so we look at Nazi Germany. Obviously, that was built upon conspiracy against the Jews. Soviet Union, very similar. AIDS denialism. They really denied AIDS in Africa when it was
Oh,
widespread, which resulted in 330,000. We know that
I didn't know
vaccine.
that.
Yeah. We know that vaccine refusals can cause outbreaks. So we see more and more like measles outbreaks here and there, things like that. And then there was a famine in Zambia. And at the time, there was a conspiracy that was talking about like processed foods and how they're not good for you and all of that, which fairly true. But so much so that they rejected any kind of food aid during the famine. And again, killed hundreds of thousands of people because of this
Wow.
conspiracy theory. So they can be really dangerous when they're on kind of a national or a global scale. And so we have to kind of be careful about the ones that we believe in, not only for the sake of the world, but also just for your personal mental health. It's even though it's not necessarily a factor of like ignorance, it's just an indicator that you're human in kind of this world of chaos and trying to like make sense of the world. It's really easy to kind of get caught up in them. And so, feel like a conspiracy theory is trying to replace your fear with something really simple, like a nice, clean solution. Or that, you're having trouble getting past the idea that something like this could be just randomly happening. You're probably getting sucked into a conspiracy theory. You probably need to do some research outside of YouTube and TikTok and Instagram, even though they say that whatever information on government websites just reinforces the idea because they're trying to cover it up. Just be careful. Be kind to yourself. Don't let the algorithms hijack your brain, please.
It's so interesting. I can definitely see it, how, what you're talking about, where if it's like a too simple of a solution, but it sounds funny because I feel like when I hear conspiracy theories, they're like the most complicated,
Oh my god.
unlikely. And
It's
I'm like, this
Charlie
does not
Day
sound
on his
simple. This
wall of
sounds, yeah, this
chaos.
sounds really, really wild. But your brain just it tricks you into thinking that it all makes sense and that it's such a easy and simple
Well,
solution
because
if you
it's
just
so
think about it.
intricate and they use such scientific words and they weave this web that you
Yeah.
can't possibly escape from. And like, I mean, like in my 20s, I was watching all kinds of documentaries about stuff and like, thumbs up. Um,
Every time. The headphone
why
and
does
the
it only
thumbs
do it
up
for
every time,
you?
and
You don't
it's
talk with your
always
hands. It's just me because I talk with my hands. You're the Italian one. What's going on?
I know, I'm always holding my laptop. I have a much worse setup than you
Fair.
do. It keeps me still. As I
Fair.
shake my leg the entire time, I'm sure you probably can see it on video.
I don't know what I was saying, but yeah, just like be careful and take care of yourself and don't spend too much time down a
Mm.
rabbit hole.
Always
Like,
good advice, yeah.
I remember
Go touch some
when,
grass.
yeah, I remember when Ghislaine Maxwell, like maybe first got arrested or sometime around there.
Yeah.
And there was this conspiracy theory on TikTok that was like they were selling kids through Wayfair, that there were
Yes,
these
I saw
pieces
that,
of
where if you go.
furniture with the names and the prices, and I got into a really deep hole on TikTok just, like, watching it. Like, I obviously didn't believe that. I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe it's true. Because it's such a dark idea, I was, like, in this rabbit hole, and I was, like, feeling down, and I was like, "I have to get out of this." I was like, "I need to interact with, like, the most random shit possible, like things that I don't even care
See that
about to get
whole
me out of
bullshit
it because it's."
algorithm, yeah.
Yeah. Algorithms are scary, guys, especially TikToks. Don't believe anything they say on there, even though I love it. Except for us. Believe us on our TikTok at Ren Fair
Or,
Podcast.
a good recipe or, like, a
Yeah.
fun little puppy video. Those are
Don't get
fine.
into conspiracy theory TikTok. It's scary. And that's my
Yes.
thesis. That's all.
Thank you. That was so fun. I feel like that was really educational. I'm glad that you went into the psychology of it some, because I don't, I mean, obviously I feel like we're all inundated with a lot of conspiracy theories all the time,
Yeah.
but knowing the psychology behind it makes me feel a little less crazy. I'm like, okay, there's like
Right.
actually a reason, and it makes more sense of it for me.
Right. It makes me feel a little bit more respectful to the people who do believe in them. It also just makes me feel natural for loving to dabble in them a little bit.
Yeah.
So I like to debate them.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's probably some things we could find too and post about, like, if you have a loved one that's really stuck in a conspiracy theory that's consuming them in a lot of, in
Yeah.
more than just, a casual for fun, maybe they believe something a little kooky. I know there's a lot of resources out there for people to help their family members that are
Mhm.
maybe stuck in something like that. So I'll see what I can find and link that as well. Because if you do have a family member who's stuck in a conspiracy theory that's harming them or, isolating them from people around them, it can be a really, really hard thing to address, because as somebody looking at it from the outside, it seems really crazy, and like I'm sure it gets very frustrating
Mhm.
to have somebody who won't listen to what you feel, is reason. There are some things that you can do, and just keep your own mental health safe and help people as much as you can.
Yeah. I think, forgive them for living in another reality and
Yeah.
yeah, find some resources. We'll put some in the
Yeah.
notes. So,
Yes, I will definitely find some and link them. But great topic. Thanks for doing that. I'm super happy that we got to dive into it more.
yeah, I thought it was fairly timely and relevant. Really, it's been relevant for like the last 6 years or so. But especially now with like all these things of potentially some conspiracy coming true to some degree, I think it's also a
Right.
dangerous time for those people who are feeling validated to go further into it. So also like be careful of that as you absorb the
Yeah.
reality of things.
Yeah, absolutely. Any final thoughts beyond that?
No, I don't. have any.
Okay. I don't think I have anything either. But go watch Frankenstein if you haven't. It's a great
Yeah,
movie.
really good.
Tell us your thoughts on Wuthering Heights still. We're very
Yeah, I
interested.
was gonna
I
say,
still
wait, do
have
we
not
wanna
seen
talk
it.
about that? I wanna
Okay,
talk
we
about,
can
like, the
talk, but no
initial
spoilers
response. Yeah, no.
because I haven't seen it yet.
I haven't seen it either. I've just been,
Okay,
like,
all right, good.
watching with popcorn about, like, the reviews. This is my c
The
this
reviews
is
are in.
the reviews are in,
That we
and
can
it's
say,
very controversial, but
as we knew it would be.
I think it's painted a little bit more context for me. This is what I've decided. Emerald took this Emerald, not Emerald, like the chef.
It sounded
Emerald
like you said emeralds,
Fennel.
yeah.
Okay, good. Took this plot that was a gothic romance novel and applied the modern romance treatment to it. And that is what you get in the movies. It just took plot out of it, plopped it into a different world. It is not the same. And people are pissed. People are
Yeah,
pissed.
I think you had sent it to me, that quote. It was like, "It's her worst, best movie,"
Yeah. Yeah, like,
which I
everything
feel like
is
will
wrong
only
about
make
it
sense
except
when
for
you've
it's
seen it.
stunning, is what people are
Yeah.
basically saying. And, like, I'm reading the book, I'm getting there. I finally got, like, through the halfway point. The second half is, like, a little bit, for some reason, easier to read, maybe because it's dealing with
Yeah,
children.
I agree.
And I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna finish it, but I don't think you need to read the book to see it. Even though I haven't
I
seen
don't
it,
think
I
so
don't think you
either.
need to read the book. I think it may give
That'll
you a
just make you
worse
mad.
time if you read the book.
I agree.
Like, the interpretation of Frankenstein was very different. Not very different. Not as far different as this one is, but, like, there were some liberties taken.
See, I feel like it kept a lot of the
It
same
did.
or, like, similar
The same
themes, though,
spirit.
to the original
Yes, it
novel,
did.
which is what's important to me,
Yeah. And I don't
personally.
well,
So,
I won't say anything else about what I know about the movie, but
okay. Yeah. We'll report back when we've both seen it.
yeah.
I'm supposed to go
This
see it
is an
this week, so
ongoing saga. Come back for
we'll
part
see.
3.
Yeah. But otherwise, in the meantime, we would love it if you would go and rate the show and maybe
Yeah.
subscribe if you feel like it while you're at it. I'm not telling you what to do, but we're just saying we would appreciate it.
Yeah,
And
I
leave
mean,
us
give us some hate
comments
comments if you want, just engagement.
if you
Anyway, don't do it.
absolutely have to. I suppose that you
Just
could
kidding.
do that.
Leave us
Um,
Wuthering Heights hate comments.
yes, there you go. If you can watch our episode on YouTube as well, if you prefer to watch it there, and leave us some comments on things you want to hear in the future. And you can find us on Instagram at RenFairPod to look at some pictures and links to things that we like and want to show you.
Yes, indeed. See you in a few weeks. 2 weeks. 1 week.
Bye.
Bye.